Our text today is from chapter 12 of the Epistle to the Hebrews. Therefore, seeing we also are compassed about with a great cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. Palm Sunday is a special day in the life of the church, and especially so when it is a confirmation day. The congregation has given you, my young friends, a special place in the service. Your families and your friends have come to see you pledge your allegiance to your Lord, and their prayers are rising to the throne of grace on your behalf. The holy angels themselves are here and are rejoicing with you. But kids, it's more than that, and it's better than that. The Bible tells us we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. The picture here is of a great outdoor stadium, all laid out for track and field events. And the bleachers are filled with the great athletes of long ago who have come to watch the new contestants run their race. They are from a brighter, better world than the one we live in. They no longer appear to our eyes in weakness and weariness. But they've come to cheer you on, for they know the struggles that you must go through. For they were their struggles as well. Up there in the stands is Abel, who worshiped the Lord, and Enoch, who walked with the Lord, and Noah, who worked for the Lord, building a boat on dry ground. And over there, Abraham is sitting. Beside him, his wife, who by faith found strength to conceive a child when she was past age. And beside her, another woman who by faith found courage to launch a little boat into the river Nile with her own son as its precious cargo. Isaac and Jacob are there, who so firmly believed in the future God planned for them that they blessed their children on the basis of it. Joseph postponed the burial of his own casket because he believed what God had promised. And of course, Moses is there. And the Canaanite woman Rahab, who had so little to go on but believed so well. And the grand old warriors whose military exploits shall never be forgotten are sitting there. Gideon and David and Samson, the one-man army. And they've all come to witness to you. That means they didn't come as spectators looking for entertainment at some sporting event. They've come to tell you something because that's what witnesses do. They're telling you that the life of faith can be lived. But you say, Moses was Moses and I'm only me. And that's true. You are only you, but God is also God and can do for you what he did for Moses. Your family problems cannot be worse than mine, Jacob is saying to you, and Joseph as well. Your loneliness cannot be worse than mine, says Daniel to you and Abraham. Your sins cannot be darker than mine, says Rahab and David, and they ought to know. The difficulties facing you cannot be more overwhelming than the difficulties that faced us in Egypt and at the Red Sea. Moses and Joshua are telling you that your God is a faithful God and will never let you down because they lived their lives believing in that. But let us run the race with perseverance that is laid out before us. Now the imagery of the stadium continues. Only now it's our turn. The next event has been announced. And time for us now to run the race that others have run before us. And when you step into the starting blocks, doesn't make any difference then whether the sun is shining or the rain is falling or the mosquitoes are biting. Whether your girlfriend's sitting in the stands or your family, you cannot stop and wave and talk to them. We got to run with patience the race that is set before us. And to do that, he says, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doth so easily beset us. You've run races. There's nothing wrong with jogging pants and warm-up sweaters, and baseball caps and sunglasses. But you take that junk off when you're running a race. Stuff doesn't bother you when you're standing still. But try to run with all that junk on you and it slows you down. What weight? What sin should we strip off? Well, kids, everybody's got to answer that one for himself. For we are different people with different weights and besetting sins. I don't know what it is in your life. Television, neither here nor there, good or bad. But if you spend your life watching people live instead of living, if you do nothing but watch others compete and never compete yourself, then television is a hindrance to you. It might be overconfidence. We've all known great athletes who've been knocked off by the underdog. It might be procrastination, which is a fancy name for a problem I have. It means putting off till tomorrow what you ought to be doing today. Whatever the weight, whatever the sin, lay the thing aside and let us run with patience the race that is set before us. We ain't talking 100-meter dash now, started and over in 10 seconds. We're talking about a race that is a long race, and it requires endurance and perseverance and a dogged determination to press on to the end. The race is long and the road is rough and it's uphill and the wind's in your face most of the way. So how can we, frail creatures that we are, hold on and hold in to the finish line? He says, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of your faith. Many folks don't believe much in Jesus because they never look to him. They're so busy looking at themselves or at the competition or looking for rest areas and picnic spots along the way. And nobody can be looking two different directions. The woman, Lot's wife, tried that, remember? Leaving the city of Sodom in one direction and looking back over her shoulder in the other direction. The unhappy woman never made it. Keep on looking to Jesus. Are you afraid of the future? Look to Jesus, who has your future safely in his hands. Are you faced with some difficult decision? Look to Jesus and let him guide the way. Are you disappointed by the failures of your daily life? Look to Jesus and see the forgiveness he's won for you with his nail-pierced hands? Are you afraid of being left out by the crowd and left behind? Look to Jesus. He will never leave you nor forsake you. And how do you do it? It says here, who for the great joy set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down on the right hand of the throne of God. Jesus did not ignore the cross. He did not bypass the cross. He endured the cross. Look at the shameful way they treated Jesus, the shameful criminal's death they gave to Jesus. And he despised it. And you know why? Because he looked for the joy that was set before him. The way any real athlete puts up with the grueling hours of practice and the sprains and the bruises and the blisters and the aching muscles, because he knows that's the price of victory. We Christians have done some stupid things in our day. But the dumbest thing we have ever done, we have given people the impression that suffering is the mark of the Christian church. We've let other people believe that sadness and sorrow are what the faith is about. Our preachers and our Bibles, good old funeral black. And if you ever get to faith, you got to say goodbye to laughter and dancing and music and rock and roll and happiness. I cannot imagine, I have never seen a life so crammed with joy as was the life of Jesus Christ. The first miracle he ever did was at a social gathering, at the wedding of Canaan, when they ran out of refreshments at the reception. And the good religious folk of his day criticized him because he wasn't sad enough. He wasn't serious enough. And Jesus says, I know it. My little company happens to be like a bridal party. Jesus was a guest in the homes of the rich and the poor. And that tells you something about Jesus. Nobody, if he can help it, invites a wet blanket to a dinner party. When Jesus needed a coin, he had to borrow one. When he wanted a child, one was right there. And if you know anything about kids at all, little children never hang around deadbeats or mean-spirited people. There is nothing in all of this world that will put joy into your life like helping somebody else. You can follow Jesus' trail through the countryside by the happiness he left behind. Tears dried, burdens lifted, lives changed. Remember the fishermen of Galilee standing there cold and hungry, empty-handed, toiled all the night, and had taken nothing. Do you know how much fun it would have been to fill their nets and see the tears of gratitude in their eyes? I know you remember Jesus preaching to a full house. And these guys started tearing the roof off the joint and lowered their paralyzed friend through a hole in the ceiling to the room at Jesus' feet. He was not angry that they interrupted his sermon. He was delighted that they had that much confidence in him. Out there in the wilderness, this little boy gives Jesus his bag lunch. And with it, Jesus fed the multitudes. But can you picture the scene later that evening? The little boy comes running through the back door into the kitchen and he says, "Mom, where are you, Mom? Wait till you hear what me and Jesus did today." And it was true. And you can't help but smile just thinking about that. And then you look at Jesus' followers, they remind you of Curly, Moe, and Larry. One guy climbs a tree, another guy comes walking on the water. One woman gets so confused, she anoints his feet instead of his head with precious ointment. And only a joyful person could have been patient with that and understanding and helpful. Everything in this world that counts costs. And you kids who've been out for sports, you know that. Jesus endured the cross, despised the shame because of the joy that was set down before him. The blessings that he could put into the lives of countless people to this day and call back the lost and gone astray to their home and give to defeated souls the chance to breathe again and begin again, and to teach us that our loved ones are not gone, but gone before. He sits at the right hand of the throne of God to pour down his everlasting light upon this darkened world of ours. The cross and the shame are part of it, kids. And so are all the heartaches and the hardships. But right there in the middle of it, at the Last Supper, Jesus says to his friends then and now, "Now therefore ye have sorrow, but I will see you again, and your hearts shall rejoice. And your joy no man taketh from you." Amen.